What advice would you give to those non-native speakers who are perhaps feeling frustrated, maybe like, like you felt when you wrote that blog post and you were teaching in Prague, and that they're being turned down for jobs all the time, and kind of feeling frustrated and perhaps maybe acceptant of, the status quo. What can they do to succeed despite discrimination?
Just don't give up. It's gonna happen. It's a cruel world, but like you're part of what is gonna make it better. So just don't give up. I find it can also be very helpful to share your thoughts, like I did on your blog, to speak out against it, to talk to other teachers and say, hey, do you know what they're doing? But also, like, whenever you get rejected, I mean, I know it's really frustrating and you don't necessarily want to talk to them ever again, but it is worthwhile to check with them, like, what was the reason? Because, I think you can get into that sort of loop that you just start to assume that whenever you get rejected, it's because you're non-native. But it could also be for a different reason. And if it is because you're non-native, then as I said, you don't really want to work for that school anyway, but also maybe you can start a dialogue with them and say, well, how exactly would a native fill the position better than I do, or what is the problem? Which I'm not saying you can necessarily convince them, but I think it's very liberating to start that dialogue. And it's just so important that you know your rights and that you know that what they do is not okay. Because I think, as with every other form of discrimination, the problem is that the people who do it to you act like it's completely normal and fine, and it makes you feel like you are wrong, and that's very difficult to overcome. So just don't give in. Just don't start to believe it's fine or it's natural or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And perhaps, you're being stubborn. In this case, that's perhaps, an advantage in a way, because you don't give up, and, you believe in certain things, and, and you pursue them.
Yeah, I mean, I keep being astonished, like how blatantly some schools like discriminate against not only non-natives, but like there's lots of other stuff. There's ageism, there's sexism, there's racism. So I'm like really trying to work on making this a better industry, or at least a more professional industry. And I think that people who are rejected because of these reasons don't give up is a very important part of it.
Absolutely. And what you said about maybe starting a dialogue with the school, even if they don't reply to you in the end, but you've done also your little bit to try and make the profession a better place, I suppose.
That's true. That's true. And I know it's not usually what you feel like when you just got a rejection letter, because but it maybe makes them think. Like when I was a teacher trainer in Prague, I also had lots of language schools who sent me job ads, and I started replying to them saying, hey, this is not okay. And there were actually schools who were not really aware of what they were doing. Like some of them do it on purpose, most of them, I guess. But there are really some that were just not aware of what's actually behind it. So always assume the best, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first time that I was turned down for a job, and then, I wrote to them, I wrote an article about it. And in the end, they wanted to give me a job because they kind of realized that what they were doing was wrong. I'm not saying that this is going to happen every single time. It probably won't. But it might. It might.
I mean, yeah, like the thing that I've experienced most is that when you do that, they're like, oh, maybe you could teach some lower levels or something like that. And that's just something when I have enough and say, look, no, sorry, this is just insulting for everyone involved now.
Yeah.
But just see what comes from it. And maybe that is the result, that you in the end get a job.
Yeah, or even if you sort of swallow this first bitter pill, then perhaps after teaching a couple of low levels, very quickly you might start teaching all kinds of levels, and it's kind of a way in, I suppose. As you said, for some people, we don't have choice sometimes.
That, and also it's sad but true that if you work hard and you're on time and you're a reliable employee, they will notice that whether you're a native or a non-native. So, you know, or if you get the feedback from a lot of employers, like for example in Prague, the competition is so stiff that if as a non-native, if your English is not on a certain level, that can be a problem. So, but that's something you can work on.
If you've enjoyed this video, then definitely don't forget to download my free PDF guide. 6 foolproof tips to boost your professional profile and get hired as a non-native speaker teacher. By reading this guide, you will learn exactly what you need to do to create a solid professional profile and to increase your chances of getting hired as a non-native speaker despite the discrimination and native speaker bias. You can download the guide by following the link in the description to this video.